Stay calm and let the universe deliver what you deserve. Buddhism wisdom. What if everything you've been chasing, success, clarity, peace, has been quietly waiting for you, but you've been running so fast you couldn't hear it knocking? What if it's not the universe that withholds, but you unknowingly standing in the way? You see, in this age of hustle, we've all been taught a dangerous lie, that peace, happiness, and fulfillment are rewards you earn after decades of grinding, pushing, proving. But what if that's not true? What if the very thing you long for, rest, ease, meaning, comes not from doing more but from doing less, not from gripping tighter but from learning to release? Welcome to a different kind of video. This isn't just motivation. This is a quiet revolution, rooted in over 2,500 years of Buddhist wisdom, backed by real-life stories from men and women over 50 who have lived through storms, loss, and reinvention, and discovered something the modern world has forgotten. You don't have to chase what is already yours. You only need to make space for it to arrive. In the next few minutes, we'll take you on a deeply reflective journey through 12 powerful truths. You'll learn why the struggle you feel isn't always external, why the universe doesn't respond to force but to energy, why the more you cling, the more you suffer, and why surrender isn't weakness but wisdom. These are not just ideas, they are practices, tools, seeds of transformation, and they are especially vital for those of us past midlife, when the climb begins to feel less urgent and the question becomes not, what more can I do? But rather, who am I when I stop? If you're over 50, this video was made for you. If you're tired of striving but afraid to stop, this is for you. If you've built a life but still feel a quiet emptiness inside, this is your invitation to begin again. As a teacher of Buddhist philosophy for over 3 decades, I've sat with people in their 50s, 60s, even their 80s, who didn't come looking for quick answers. They came because they were ready. Ready for peace not as an escape, but as a deeper way of living. They were tired of being at war with life, tired of their own mind being their battlefield. This video is for you if you're ready to move differently, to let go, to trust again. You'll discover how Buddhist principles can illuminate a simpler path, one where clarity isn't chased, it emerges, where peace isn't something you win, it's something you remember, one breath at a time. But I'll be honest. This is not a video to watch halfway. Each chapter builds on the last. The wisdom here is layered, delicate but strong, and if you stay with us until the end, something in you will begin to shift, not just intellectually, but spiritually. So please stay with this, watch until the end, not for me, for you, because right now you're standing at a crossroads, not of ambition, but of alignment, not of effort, but of flow. And the road forward is not paved with doing, it's paved with letting go. Letting go of who you think you have to be, letting go of control, letting go of the old story that says, I'll be at peace when everything's perfect. Peace is not a finish line, it's a practice, and it begins now. So take a deep breath, right now, wherever you are. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw unclench, and if you've been carrying the weight of the world, even silently, give yourself permission to set it down just for the next few minutes. You've carried a lot to get here. You've survived more than you give yourself credit for, and now you don't have to fight anymore. Because here's the truth Buddhist masters have passed down for centuries. The moment you stop chasing, life begins to meet you. This is not passive, this is powerful, so let's begin, gently, intentionally, with presence. You are not late, you are not behind, you are not broken, you're just ready. Ready to stop forcing and start receiving. Welcome to the quiet path back to yourself. Welcome to the art of letting go. Welcome to the wisdom the world forgot, but your soul has always known. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The storm isn't yours to hold. There's a kind of storm that doesn't happen in the sky, but deep within the human heart. It begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, like a single cloud drifting across a blue sky. A quiet whisper in the mind, what if things fall apart? What if I can't hold it all together? And just like that, the thunder begins. What follows is not rain or wind, but the inner weather of anxiety, pressure in the chest, a tightening in the jaw, a deep, gnawing sense that we must do something, anything, to keep the world from crumbling. But here's a truth Buddhism has whispered for centuries, a truth we forget in our rush to control everything. You don't have to hold the storm. You are the sky. Let's slow down and sit with that. The sky doesn't resist the storm. It allows it, it contains it, but it never becomes the storm. In one of the forest monasteries in Thailand, a monk once told me, when the sky releases the rain, it returns to peace. Why do we, after a storm of emotion, still carry the clouds? That line stayed with me because it's exactly what we do. We live in a society addicted to control. Our calendars, our apps, our to-do lists, our 10-year plans, they whisper the same promise. If you can just manage it all, you'll be okay. But what does Buddhism say? The tighter you grip, the more you suffer. We think peace will come when everything is finally in order, but Buddhist insight teaches us this. Peace is what arises when we stop trying to control what was never ours to begin with. Let's talk about Haruko. She was a widow in her late 60s, living in the foothills near Kyoto. After her husband passed, she became obsessed with staying on top of things. Her kitchen was immaculate. Her grandchildren's schedules were planned down to the minute. Her emotions were buried under tasks. During a retreat, I sat beside her in silence. When I asked her, what would happen if you stopped? She paused and said, everything will fall apart, but she did stop, just for a moment. She sat in silence, no to-do list, no planning, just breath, and in that moment something broke open. First tears, then calm, then the quietest, most profound smile. She looked at me and said, I thought the storm was life itself. I didn't realize I was the one holding it. This is the gift of Buddhist awareness. It doesn't promise a life without storms. It shows us how to stop being consumed by them. Let me say this clearly, surrender is not defeat. In Buddhism, surrender is a spiritual maturity. It's the moment we stop fighting life and start flowing with it. Like a river moving around the stone, like a tree bending in the wind, like the lotus rising from the mud. When we align with nature's rhythm instead of resisting it, we don't lose power, we become powerful. Here's a question for you. What are you clinging to right now that's weighing you down? Is it an identity that no longer fits? A version of yourself that's tied to who you used to be? Is it the fear of aging, of becoming irrelevant, of being alone? Pause, breathe, ask gently, is this mine to carry? Most of the time, it's not. One of Buddhism's most compassionate teachings is this: you don't have to carry what's not yours. That includes expectations you inherited. That includes wounds that weren't your fault. That includes the idea that you always have to be strong. Letting go is not a single act, it's a devotion, a spiritual rhythm. Some days, letting go means forgiving a comment that stung. Other days, it's releasing the belief that your worth is measured by productivity. And often, it's letting go of the illusion that peace lies somewhere out there. It's not peace is here, now, beneath the noise. Let me offer you a simple morning practice. Imagine a clear mountain stream. In your hands, hold a leaf. On that leaf, place your fear, your pressure, your need to control. Then release the leaf into the current, watch it drift, and as it floats away, say to yourself, I release what is not mine to carry. Do this for 7 mornings. You'll be surprised at what softens, because here's what happens when the mind softens. Life begins to speak to you again, not in grand signs, but in small, sacred whispers. You notice the sunlight on the wall, the sound of birds. The taste of warm tea, that's not just presence, that's healing. When we stop gripping, our hands are free to hold joy. And let's not forget, letting go is not about apathy. It's about making space for joy, for love, for the subtle magic that only arrives when the mind is quiet. You don't yell at the soil to make the seed grow. You water it, give it light, and wait, trusting. So when life feels like it's spinning out of control, when plans collapse, when timelines vanish, when people let you down, remember this: the storm isn't yours to hold. Let it pass. Let the emotions rise and let them fall. You don't need to fix everything, you just need to stop resisting everything. Like the sky after rain, you'll return to peace, because peace isn't a place you reach, it's who you are underneath it all. Chapter 2, You Are Not Your Thoughts. Observe your mind like a still lake. Imagine a still lake at midnight. There's no wind, no movement, just the soft reflection of the moon resting quietly on the surface. The lake doesn't try to reflect, it doesn't strain or reach, it simply allows what is to be seen clearly. That's the nature of a quiet mind, not forced, just present. But for many of us, especially after 50, our minds feel more like stormy oceans than peaceful lakes. The thoughts don't stop, worries roll in like waves. What if I get sick? What if my money runs out? What if I've already missed my chance to live meaningfully? You're not alone. These thoughts are common, but what we often forget, and what Buddhism gently reminds us, is this: you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This single truth has changed lives. Let me tell you about Paul. He was 62 when he joined one of our meditation retreats in Oregon. Just retired, recently divorced, and carrying a quiet heaviness he couldn't name. On the outside, things looked fine, but inside, it was chaos. I thought retirement would bring peace, he told me, but my mind's never been louder. On the first morning, we sat in silence. The pine trees swayed gently. A bird tapped in the distance. The world was calm, but Paul was restless. I can't stop thinking, he whispered. Every time I close my eyes, it's like a storm in there. And that, I told him, is where the true practice begins. You see, most of us don't even realize we're drowning in thought. We wake up thinking. We eat while thinking. We even fall asleep thinking. And not helpful, creative thinking, but anxious loops, regrets, imagined arguments, things we can't change. Here, that's what Buddhism teaches us. You don't have to stop your thoughts. You only need to stop identifying with them. Imagine sitting beside a river. The water flows past you, some parts clear, others muddy. Those are your thoughts. You don't have to jump in. You don't have to swim or fight the current. You just sit and watch. That's the shift. That's the freedom. Over the 10 days of the retreat, Paul started to see this. His posture softened. He smiled more often. One morning over tea, he said, "The thoughts are still there, but now I can see them floating by, and I don't follow anymore." That is liberation, not the absence of thought, but the absence of attachment. There's a beautiful teaching from the Thai forest tradition. You are not the clouds, you are the sky. Your thoughts, those racing fears, those self-doubts, those lingering memories, they're just clouds, passing shapes in the vast sky of your awareness. Sometimes they storm, sometimes they linger, but they always pass, and you remain. Let's try something together, right now. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes if you'd like. Take a deep breath in and out. Now gently notice what arises in your mind. It might be a to-do list, a worry, a memory. Whatever it is, don't fight it. Don't follow it, just name it softly. Worry, planning, remembering. And then let it drift. That simple act of noticing without reacting is the core of Vipassana, or insight meditation. It's the difference between living inside a storm and watching the clouds roll across the horizon. Now let me tell you about Lian, a retired school teacher from Vietnam. She had spent her entire life devoted to students, lesson plans, and service. But after retirement, her days felt empty. Her thoughts grew darker. "I'm no longer needed," she told me. "I don't know who I am without a classroom." At first, she tried to keep busy gardening, volunteering, reading. But the silence at night brought back the same thoughts. Until one day, she began to meditate. Just 10 minutes each morning, sitting by her window with a candle and a notebook. No effort, just breath and attention. After a few weeks, she said, "My thoughts are still there, but they're like birds now. They come, they rest, then they fly away." That's what mindfulness does. It doesn't delete your thoughts. It changes your relationship with them. You stop being a prisoner and you become an observer. And that observer, that's your true self. That's the still lake beneath all the surface ripples. Now I want to be honest, this is not always easy. Especially in this phase of life. After 50, we're often navigating major transitions, retirement, aging parents, health scares, adult children who no longer need us. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to believe every anxious thought. But here's your power. You don't have to believe everything your mind says. Just because a thought feels urgent doesn't make it true. Just because your mind says it's too late doesn't mean it is. The mind loves to catastrophize. It's trying to protect you, but it's not always wise. The wise part of you is deeper, quieter. It doesn't yell, it doesn't panic, it just waits for you to remember it's there. And once you do, your whole life begins to shift, not externally, but internally. Here's a practice to help. Each morning before reaching for your phone or turning on the news, sit for 3 minutes, just 3. Close your eyes, breathe. And picture your mind as a lake. Watch what lands on it, a leaf of worry, a breeze of memory, and let it go. Say gently to yourself, this is not me, this is just passing weather. And throughout your day, when you feel triggered or flooded with thought, pause, put your hand on your chest, take one deep breath, and remember the stillness is still there. With time, the mind learns, the thoughts slow, the space between them grows. And in that space, peace is born, not because life is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. This is not about detachment in a cold way. This is about freedom. It's about being able to love your life even with its messiness. It's about being able to hear your thoughts and say, thank you, but not follow them into fear. You are the one watching the thoughts, not the one being pushed around by them. You are the still lake, you are the open sky. You are the awareness that never ages, never breaks, and never leaves. So when your mind storms again, as it will, don't panic. Don't try to stop the rain. Just sit beside it. Watch, breathe. Let it pass, because in the quiet that follows, the moon is always waiting to return. Chapter 3. Align your energy like a compass. The universe responds to vibration, not effort. You've probably felt it before. Someone walks into the room without saying a word, and yet something shifts. The air gets lighter, calmer, grounded. That's energy. We often think of energy in terms of motion, doing, accomplishing, pushing. But in Buddhist thought, energy isn't about force. It's about presence. It's not how loud your voice is, or how much you get done, or how hard you hustle. It's the subtle vibration of your being. The felt sense of who you are underneath all the noise. And here's the spiritual truth we forget. The universe doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your alignment. It responds not to your plans, your spreadsheets, or your tightly controlled routines, but to the quality of your energy, to the truth you're living from in this very moment. Let me tell you about Min. He was in his late 50s when he joined one of my weekend workshops. A former high-level finance executive, Min had spent decades climbing, first out of poverty, then into power. He had the kind of resume that fills LinkedIn pages and wins admiration at class reunions. But when we met, he looked tired, not just physically, but spiritually drained, hollowed out. I did everything right, he said. But my marriage is cold, my kids barely call. I walk into my own house and feel like a stranger. Min was successful by every external standard, but energetically, he was living in a deficit. His generosity came from fear of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant. His hard work came from anxiety of losing status, of falling behind. Even his kindness felt strained, as if trying to buy connection through performance. That's the thing about energy, you can't fake it. We think we can act calm, appear successful, seem confident, but underneath all of that is your real vibration, and life, like a tuning fork, will always respond to what's real. Min didn't need another achievement, he needed a return to himself. Over the course of several weeks, we focused not on what he should do, but how he could begin to feel. Breathwork, walking meditation, sitting in silence. Feeling his own body again, not as a machine for productivity, but as a temple for presence. At first, he resisted. This feels like nothing, he said. I'm not solving anything. But that's the illusion we live under, that more thinking will save us, that doing more will fix what only being can. Slowly, something began to shift. His breath deepened, his voice softened. He started telling stories again, laughing, remembering things he used to enjoy before life became a race. And then life responded. His wife asked him to go on walks again. His son invited him on a fishing trip. Old friends he hadn't heard from in years called out of the blue, not because Min said the right thing or followed a new strategy, but because his energy had changed. When you change your vibration, the world meets you differently. This is not magic, it's resonance. Just as a compass aligns with magnetic north when undisturbed, your life begins to align when your inner world is still, steady, and sincere. Let's be clear, effort isn't bad. Buddhism never tells us to stop acting, but it reminds us that right effort is born from right intention, and intention is energetic. A common mistake I see, especially in people over 50, is believing they're too old to change their vibration. But that's just another thought, another outdated story. In truth, this chapter of life is the perfect time. Why? Because the world has pulled so much from you by now. Careers, children, sacrifices. You've given and done and held things together. Now you get to return home to your own vibration, to tune it like an instrument back to clarity, calm, and truth. Let's return to the teachings. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It's not just what you think once, but the dominant energy you carry daily. If you wake up in fear, speak in worry, act in scarcity, you send that signal out like radio waves, and life echoes it back. So ask yourself, what vibration am I sending right now? Am I acting from fear or faith, from desperation or presence, from scarcity or trust? These are not rhetorical questions, they are spiritual compasses, because here's the hard truth. You can do everything right on the outside and still attract suffering if the inside is clenched, fearful, closed off. You can go through all the motions and still feel unseen because the energy behind the action was disconnected. Energy is not woo-woo, it's wisdom, and you can feel it in people. You've met elders who, even at 80, radiate joy and warmth, and you've met younger people whose eyes are already tired. That's not biology, that's vibration. You shift your vibration by becoming aware of it. Try this each morning before checking your phone or diving into tasks. Sit with yourself, just 2 minutes. Place your hand on your chest, feel your breath, and ask, what am I vibrating today? What kind of life am I inviting through my presence? Then whisper to yourself, aloud if you can, today I choose peace. It sounds simple, but this is the soil where all meaningful transformation begins. Peace isn't the end goal, it's the path. It's the frequency that attracts clarity, connection, and right action. When you vibrate peace, people feel safe around you. When you radiate calm, others soften in your presence. When you embody gratitude, opportunities appear not because you chased them, but because they were drawn to your alignment. This is not about perfection. You'll have off days, I do too. But alignment isn't about never wobbling, it's about noticing when you do and gently returning to center. That's the beauty of the compass. Even when it swings wildly, it always settles if we stop shaking it. You can realign at any moment. You can shift from anxiety to breath, from hurry to stillness, from overthinking to simply being here. And when you do, something incredible begins to happen. You stop pushing for life to happen. You start letting life unfold around you. People call you lucky. They say things just seem to work out for you. But what they don't see is that you stopped chasing and started resonating. You didn't beg for peace, you became it. You didn't force love, you radiated it. You didn't demand joy, you welcomed it and it came. So today I invite you to live like a compass. Return to your still point, remember your truth, and let your energy do the talking. Because in the end, the universe speaks in frequency, and when you align with peace, it can finally hear you. Chapter 3. Align your energy like a compass. The universe responds to vibration, not effort. You've probably felt it before. Someone walks into the room without saying a word, and yet something shifts. The air gets lighter, calmer, grounded. That's energy. We often think of energy in terms of motion, doing, accomplishing, pushing. But in Buddhist thought, energy isn't about force. It's about presence. It's not how loud your voice is, or how much you get done, or how hard you hustle. It's the subtle vibration of your being. The felt sense of who you are underneath all the noise. And here's the spiritual truth we forget. The universe doesn't respond to your effort. It responds to your alignment. It responds not to your plans, your spreadsheets, or your tightly controlled routines, but to the quality of your energy, to the truth you're living from in this very moment. Let me tell you about Min. He was in his late 50s when he joined one of my weekend workshops. A former high-level finance executive, Min had spent decades climbing, first out of poverty, then into power. He had the kind of resume that fills LinkedIn pages and wins admiration at class reunions. But when we met, he looked tired, not just physically, but spiritually drained, hollowed out. "I did everything right," he said. "But my marriage is cold, my kids barely call. I walk into my own house and feel like a stranger." Min was successful by every external standard, but energetically, he was living in a deficit. His generosity came from fear of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant. His hard work came from anxiety of losing status, of falling behind. Even his kindness felt strained, as if trying to buy connection through performance. That's the thing about energy, you can't fake it. We think we can act calm, appear successful, seem confident, but underneath all of that is your real vibration, and life, like a tuning fork, will always respond to what's real. Min didn't need another achievement, he needed a return to himself. Over the course of several weeks, we focused not on what he should do, but how he could begin to feel. Breathwork, walking meditation, sitting in silence. Feeling his own body again, not as a machine for productivity, but as a temple for presence. At first, he resisted. "This feels like nothing," he said. "I'm not solving anything." But that's the illusion we live under, that more thinking will save us, that doing more will fix what only being can. Slowly, something began to shift. His breath deepened, his voice softened. He started telling stories again, laughing, remembering things he used to enjoy before life became a race. And then life responded. His wife asked him to go on walks again. His son invited him on a fishing trip. Old friends he hadn't heard from in years called out of the blue, not because Min said the right thing or followed a new strategy, but because his energy had changed. When you change your vibration, the world meets you differently. This is not magic, it's resonance. Just as a compass aligns with magnetic north when undisturbed, your life begins to align when your inner world is still, steady, and sincere. Let's be clear, effort isn't bad. Buddhism never tells us to stop acting, but it reminds us that right effort is born from right intention, and intention is energetic. A common mistake I see, especially in people over 50, is believing they're too old to change their vibration. But that's just another thought, another outdated story. In truth, this chapter of life is the perfect time. Why? Because the world has pulled so much from you by now. Careers, children, sacrifices. You've given and done and held things together. Now you get to return home to your own vibration, to tune it like an instrument back to clarity, calm, and truth. Let's return to the teachings. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. It's not just what you think once, but the dominant energy you carry daily. If you wake up in fear, speak in worry, act in scarcity, you send that signal out like radio waves, and life echoes it back. So ask yourself, what vibration am I sending right now? Am I acting from fear or faith, from desperation or presence, from scarcity or trust? These are not rhetorical questions, they are spiritual compasses, because here's the hard truth. You can do everything right on the outside and still attract suffering if the inside is clenched, fearful, closed off. You can go through all the motions and still feel unseen because the energy behind the action was disconnected. Energy is not woo-woo, it's wisdom, and you can feel it in people. You've met elders who, even at 80, radiate joy and warmth, and you've met younger people whose eyes are already tired. That's not biology, that's vibration. You shift your vibration by becoming aware of it. Try this each morning before checking your phone or diving into tasks. Sit with yourself, just 2 minutes. Place your hand on your chest, feel your breath, and ask, what am I vibrating today? What kind of life am I inviting through my presence? Then whisper to yourself, aloud if you can, today I choose peace. It sounds simple, but this is the soil where all meaningful transformation begins. Peace isn't the end goal, it's the path. It's the frequency that attracts clarity, connection, and right action. When you vibrate peace, people feel safe around you. When you radiate calm, others soften in your presence. When you embody gratitude, opportunities appear not because you chased them, but because they were drawn to your alignment. This is not about perfection. You'll have off days, I do too. But alignment isn't about never wobbling, it's about noticing when you do and gently returning to center. That's the beauty of the compass. Even when it swings wildly, it always settles if we stop shaking it. You can realign at any moment. You can shift from anxiety to breath, from hurry to stillness, from overthinking to simply being here. And when you do, something incredible begins to happen. You stop pushing for life to happen. You start letting life unfold around you. People call you lucky. They say things just seem to work out for you. But what they don't see is that you stopped chasing and started resonating. You didn't beg for peace, you became it. You didn't force love, you radiated it. You didn't demand joy, you welcomed it and it came. So today I invite you to live like a compass. Return to your still point, remember your truth, and let your energy do the talking. Because in the end, the universe speaks in frequency, and when you align with peace, it can finally hear you. Chapter 4, Trust the river even when you can't see the ocean. There's a quiet kind of anxiety that often goes unnoticed. It doesn't shout, it doesn't cause panic. It just lingers like a low hum in the background of our lives. It's the anxiety of not knowing what comes next. Maybe you felt it. Maybe you're feeling it right now. Especially after 50, life begins to reshape itself. The structures you relied on, your career, your health, your roles in family, start to shift or dissolve. Retirement becomes real. Loved ones move away. Bodies change, loss becomes more common. The landscape you knew so well begins to blur, and with that uncertainty comes the question, what if it doesn't work out? What if I made the wrong turn somewhere? What if it's too late to start over? It's easy in moments like these to reach for control, to tighten your grip on the steering wheel of life, to plan harder, overthink more, fill every gap with action. But here's the paradox. The more we try to control, the less peace we feel. And the more we learn to trust, the more life tends to support us. In Buddhist philosophy, trust isn't passive. It's not surrendering out of helplessness. It's an act of wisdom. It's faith not in fate, but in the deep, unfolding intelligence of life itself. Trust says, I don't have all the answers, but I know I'm being carried. Think of a river. A river doesn't panic when the banks narrow. It doesn't freeze when it hits a bend. It flows, it keeps moving. Even when it can't see the ocean, it still trusts that the ocean is there. That's the kind of trust we're invited to practice, not just in theory, but in the raw, unpredictable waters of real life. Let me tell you about Clara. Clara was 62 when she walked into one of our community meditation sessions. Graceful, intelligent, but weighed down by invisible heaviness. After retiring from a 35-year corporate career, she'd been searching for what was next. She applied for dozens of jobs, went to interviews, rebuilt her resume. And every time she was passed over, a little more of her self-worth chipped away. I used to walk into rooms and be listened to, she said. Now I feel like I'm just fading. 3 years of effort, 3 years of pushing, nothing. Then something shifted, not in the world, but in Clara. She stopped applying, not because she gave up, but because she woke up. In the quiet of her disappointment, she remembered something she used to love, yoga. For decades, it had been her secret joy, her private escape, and so, without a plan, without knowing if it would lead anywhere, she enrolled in a yoga teacher training for seniors. 2 years later, Clara was leading retreats for women over 60. Her classes were full, her joy had returned, and not because she forced anything, but because she finally flowed with her real current. That's the wisdom of the river. When you stop forcing the wrong doors to open, the right ones quietly unlock on their own. We forget that the most powerful transformations often begin in uncertainty. The lotus doesn't bloom in clear water, it blooms in the mud. And the bamboo, it grows underground for 5 years, stretching roots, preparing before shooting up 80 feet in just 6 weeks. If you judged it in year 3, you'd say, nothing is happening. But everything was happening, just not in a way you could see. That's trust, that's patience, that's spiritual alignment. You don't have to know exactly where you're going to keep moving. You don't have to see the whole map to take the next step. You just have to listen to yourself, to life, to the energy around you, and allow. Here's something I encourage you to try. Each morning, before checking the news or reaching for your phone, sit quietly for 1 minute. Place your hand on your chest, breathe slowly, and say out loud softly, I release the need to know, I trust the rhythm of my life. Repeat it whenever the doubt creeps in, when the voice says you're behind. When fear whispers you should be doing more. Because that voice isn't truth, it's conditioning, and when you stop feeding it, something softer emerges, clarity. I once asked a monk in northern Thailand how he made decisions when life felt uncertain. He smiled and said, the river doesn't see the ocean, it just feels the pull. That's it. Can you feel your own pull? Not the push from society, not the pressure from the past, but the gentle, quiet pull from within. Sometimes you'll be called to act, other times to rest. Sometimes the current will ask you to surrender old dreams or drift into unfamiliar places. But if you stay present, if you keep your heart open, the next right step always reveals itself. It may not come in a flash of insight, it may come in a whisper, a sudden peace when you think of a new path, a softening when you let go of an old goal. That's the current showing you the way. Trust is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And with trust comes something you've longed for more than certainty, freedom. Freedom from the need to control everything. Freedom from the fear of falling behind. Freedom to be where you are and know it is enough. This chapter of life is not a decline, it's a deepening, it's not a retreat, it's a return. Return to your real self, not the role, not the title, not the planner, just you, present, awake. Floating perhaps, but not lost. You are the river, the bends don't define you. The unknown doesn't weaken you. The ocean is coming, you don't have to see it, you only have to trust. And that trust, once rooted in your being, becomes the deepest kind of peace. So keep moving, keep listening, keep letting go. Let the river carry you, it always knows the way. Chapter 5, Be empty like the bamboo, to be filled by the wind. Picture a grove of bamboo swaying gently in the breeze. It doesn't resist, it doesn't stiffen. Even in the fiercest winds, it bends but never breaks, and at the heart of its strength is something surprising, its hollowness. That emptiness is not weakness, it's capacity. The bamboo is light because it doesn't cling. It survives storms because it allows movement. And in Buddhism, we hold this image dearly, not just as nature's poetry, but as a deep instruction for how to live. To be empty is not to be empty of worth, but empty of ego, tension, grasping. It means creating space inside ourselves, space where life can move, truth can settle, and joy can enter uninvited. But here is what many of us carry instead, old identities we've outgrown. responsibilities that were never really ours, stories we keep replaying, expectations that have expired. We walk through life like overpacked suitcases, holding on to shoulds, old wounds, roles we no longer need, and worries we've rehearsed 1,000 times. But Buddhism teaches that the less we carry, the more space we create, space for wisdom, space for presence, space for peace. There's a story I often tell about a retired schoolteacher named Evelyn. She had given everything to her classroom, her energy, her time, her sense of self. When she retired, she expected to feel free, but instead she felt lost, adrift. She tried to fill the space, volunteering endlessly, managing her adult children's choices, signing up for every community role available. But deep down, she felt heavy. She joined a silent retreat where I was teaching, and on the third day, the quiet cracked her open. We sat in the meditation hall, and her tears came like a spring finally allowed to flow. "I don't know who I am without being useful," she whispered, and in that rawness, I invited her to sit with one simple phrase: "I am enough." Not because of what she could give, not because of how she could serve, but simply because she exists. Slowly, Evelyn began to empty. She let go of the compulsive need to be helpful. She stopped managing her kids' schedules. She stopped apologizing for resting. She started painting, watching birds, sitting in sunbeams, reading poetry, laughing without needing a reason, and peace, quiet, unobtrusive, real, began to fill her again. Like bamboo, she became hollow in the most sacred way. Because here's the truth, we were never meant to be crammed full of noise and responsibility. We are not machines, we are vessels, channels, conduits, places where presence flows. In the Heart Sutra, one of the most central texts in Mahayana Buddhism, it says, "Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form." What does that mean? It means that being empty doesn't mean lacking, it means being open to everything. It's only when we let go of what no longer serves that we can receive what's meant for us. Think of your mind like a teacup. If it's already full of opinions, fears, assumptions, you can't pour anything else in. Even the purest water will spill over, but if you empty the cup, it becomes ready. That readiness, that soft, available spaciousness, is where the real wisdom begins. So let me ask you gently, what are you still holding that you no longer need to carry? Is it a belief that your value depends on your productivity? Is it a script about who you should have been by now? Is it a subtle resentment, an old hurt? Is it the need to manage everyone else's peace while neglecting your own? Whatever it is, you can set it down right now, gently, without judgment. Try this each morning before the day sweeps you up. Close your eyes and imagine you're holding a woven basket. Inside are all the things you've carried, roles, fears, outdated goals, regrets. One by one, picture yourself removing each item. You don't need to throw them away in anger. Just place them beside you with kindness. Then when the basket is empty, imagine wind moving through it. That's your spirit, your breath, your peace returning. This isn't symbolic, it's somatic. Your nervous system feels the difference when you empty. Your heart gets lighter, your shoulders drop. Your breath deepens because you've made room for life again. In Zen, we often talk about the beginner's mind, Shoshin, a mind that is open, curious, free from the weight of preconceptions. A beginner's mind is like bamboo, flexible, receptive. Alive, the opposite is the expert mind, full, rigid, closed. Which one do you bring into your days? To be empty is not to be helpless, it's to be trusting, to say, I don't need to control everything. I am willing to be surprised. To say, I can sit in silence and let life come to me. To say, I don't need to prove my worth to earn my place on this earth. That's spiritual maturity, not knowing more but needing less. And here's the gift. The wind only moves through what's open. The divine only enters what's spacious. Grace only rests where there's a place to land. So many of us, especially after decades of being someone, find ourselves afraid to be nothing. But nothingness in Buddhism is not nihilism. It's the quiet that gives rise to everything. It's the field where the seeds of joy, clarity, and love begin to grow. We are meant to live lightly. Not because life is light, but because we no longer carry what weighs us down unnecessarily. So again, I ask with tenderness, what can you put down today? What can you release, not because you failed, but because you've outgrown it? A title, a timeline, a tight grip on how others should behave. Let it go, friend, like the bamboo in the wind. Let yourself bend without breaking. Let yourself sway, soften, and open. There is such strength in that softness. And when you feel empty, not numb, not hollow, but open, something ancient and beautiful returns. You begin to listen again. You begin to feel again. You begin to receive again, not because you chased life down, but because you made space for it. And in that space, the wind of life moves through you, gently, freely, completely, not to fill you with more, but to remind you that you've always been enough. Chapter 6, Let Stillness Be Your Thunder. We live in a world where noise is mistaken for importance, where speed is seen as progress and busyness is treated like a badge of honor. The louder someone is, the more we assume they must be right. The more productive someone appears, the more valuable we think they must be. But in Buddhist teaching, real power doesn't come from motion, it comes from stillness. Stillness isn't absence, it's presence, pure and undisturbed. Stillness is not passive, it's not doing nothing. Stillness is listening, stillness is deep attention. Stillness is the space where truth finally has room to speak. I once worked with a nurse named Raymond. He was in his early 60s, newly retired from decades of ER trauma work. His entire adult life had been adrenaline, fast decisions, flashing lights, saving lives on the brink. When that life stopped, something inside him panicked. I don't know who I am without chaos, he said. He wasn't sleeping well. He was pacing the house, checking his phone for no reason, overthinking small things. His body had left the ER, but his mind was still trapped in the storm. We started with something simple. No fancy technique, no spiritual jargon, just 5 minutes a day, sitting in silence, eyes open or closed, no goal, no mantra, just stillness. At first, he hated it. It's like I'm waiting for something to happen, he said. His body twitched, his thoughts screamed. He wanted to do something, anything, but slowly something softened. Within 2 weeks, he stopped fidgeting. Within 4, he started looking forward to the silence. Within 2 months, he told me, I feel more alive in stillness now than I ever did in the adrenaline. This is the paradox of stillness. When you stop chasing life, you finally meet it. Not as noise, but as clarity. Think of a glass of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, it stays murky. But if you let it sit, the sediment settles and what's true begins to shine through. That's what stillness does to the mind. It doesn't fix everything. It clarifies. It doesn't remove chaos. It reveals your place in it. Stillness isn't about retreating from the world. It's about moving into it from a place of grounded awareness. The Buddha himself sought stillness not as escape, but as refuge. Beneath the Bodhi tree, he didn't strategize or hustle. He sat, he breathed, he allowed everything to arise and then fall away. And in that stillness, enlightenment emerged. Let's talk practically. How can you bring this into your life, especially when the world around you never seems to slow down? Try this each morning. 1, wake up and sit upright on the edge of your bed or a cushion. 2, place your hands gently on your knees. 3, feel your feet pressing into the floor. 4, close your eyes or keep them soft and unfocused. 5, breathe. Don't count, don't force, just notice. 6, for 3 minutes, say nothing. Do nothing, don't even try to meditate. 7, just be. Let your thoughts come and go like weather, that's it. No gold stars, no good job from the universe, just presence. But if you do this, truly do it, something inside you begins to settle. Not on day 1, maybe not on day 10, but slowly, quietly, the sediment begins to fall. You'll notice your reactions soften, your voice slows down. Your mind becomes clearer, not empty, but precise, and what matters most begins to rise to the surface. Stillness doesn't remove your problems, it removes your entanglement with them. It allows you to respond instead of react, to listen instead of judge, to move from wisdom, not fear. And here's the deeper truth: stillness is not just a morning ritual, it can become a way of being. Stillness can be found while drinking tea. Stillness can live in a conversation when you really listen without waiting for your turn to speak. Stillness can exist even in grief when you allow your heart to break open instead of shutting down. Stillness is not the opposite of life. It's the ground life springs from, and it's powerful. Stillness, in fact, is your thunder, not loud, not flashy, but mighty. Because it's in the quiet that your truest strength returns, not the strength of pushing through, but the strength of being rooted. When you're still, you stop trying to prove, you stop trying to control, you stop needing to fill every space, and in that space, everything that's untrue begins to fall away. The noise of comparison, the need to be productive to feel worthy. The urge to comment, to fix, to always be doing. You become a presence, calm, clear, and unshakable. This doesn't mean life won't be noisy around you. It will, but you don't have to take on the noise. You can be like the eye of the storm, silent and steady, even while everything swirls. There's a story from a Zen monastery about a master who was known for his silence. A young student asked, "Master, why don't you ever speak in the debates?" The master smiled and replied, "When thunder speaks, it doesn't need words." That's the energy of stillness. It speaks without sound. Stillness changes rooms. It slows down conversations. It deepens relationships because people feel something different in you, something unshaken, something rooted. And in a world that's always shouting, stillness becomes magnetic. So I invite you not just once, but every day to return to this space. Let it be sacred, let it be small, let it be real. Don't treat stillness as a break from life, treat it as life's deepest invitation. To meet the moment fully, to meet yourself fully, to stop running and just arrive, even if it's only for 3 minutes, even if it's only in your breath. Let that stillness be your thunder, not loud but unmistakable, not forced, but undeniable. And in that quiet you'll find not emptiness, but the beginning of everything that truly matters. Chapter 7: Heal the inner mirror, so the outer world can reflect your light. Have you ever tried to look at yourself in a fogged-up mirror? You're there, but not fully. The shape is familiar, but the details are smeared. That's what life becomes when we look at the world through the haze of unhealed emotions: guilt, fear, shame, regret. Everything outside of us begins to reflect what's unresolved inside. In Buddhism, there's a saying, "Your mind creates your world." This isn't meant poetically, it's a deep truth about how perception and experience are connected. The outer world doesn't happen independently of you, it arises in response to you. If we walk around with a cracked inner mirror, life begins to reflect those cracks back at us. I once worked with a woman named Mara. She was 63, newly divorced after 40 years of marriage and living with a chronic autoimmune condition. When she came to the retreat, she looked defeated, not just physically tired, but soul-weary. Her words were simple: "I just want peace." But there was something beneath that request. After years of emotional suppression, of being the caretaker, of putting everyone else first, Mara no longer believed she deserved peace. And that's where her healing had to begin, not with therapy, not with affirmations, but with compassion. Each morning, I gave her a simple practice. Place one hand gently over her heart, breathe, and say, "I see you, I forgive you, I still love you." At first, it felt fake to her, forced, like she was saying someone else's words, but this is the way of spiritual healing. It doesn't always feel natural in the beginning. The mirror doesn't clean in one swipe. You wipe again and again and again. By the 10th day of our retreat, something shifted. After her morning practice, she looked at her reflection and softly cried, not from sadness, but from recognition. "She's not broken," she whispered. "Well, she's just tired." That was the moment the mirror began to clear. What you believe about yourself shapes your life. If deep down you believe you're not worthy of love, you'll find proof of rejection even in kindness. If you believe you're too late to matter, you'll miss the doors that are opening just for you. The universe doesn't conspire against you, it reflects your self-perception. Your outer life is often a mirror of your inner belief system. So healing begins with one courageous question: what am I still believing about myself that keeps me small? For Mara, it was the belief that unless she was needed, she had no value. For others, it's the shame of past mistakes, the fear of being alone, the lie that love must be earned. But Buddhist compassion teaches, no matter your past, your essence is still pure. Under all the mental noise, your true self, what we call Buddha nature, is untouched, whole, radiant. Your job is not to fix yourself. Your job is to remove what blocks you from seeing who you truly are. Small daily practices to clean the mirror. These practices are not meant to change your life overnight. They are meant to help you see clearly, and that clarity will change your life. 1. The mirror ritual. Each morning, look into a mirror for 1 full minute. Look past the flaws, past the wrinkles, past the eyes tired from a lifetime of trying. Look deeper and say, you're still here. You're still worthy. You are enough. You may feel silly, that's okay. Keep doing it anyway. To speak to yourself like you would a child. Would you scold a child for feeling sad or lost? No. You kneel down, hold them, and say, I'm here. Start doing that for yourself, especially when you feel unworthy. 3. Write letters to your younger selves. Take a journal and write to the 15-year-old version of you, the 30-year-old, the version that was heartbroken. The version that felt invisible. Speak to them with kindness. Tell them what they didn't hear then. 4. Pause when triggered. When someone upsets you, instead of reacting immediately, pause and ask, what is this moment reflecting about me? Sometimes it's not about them. It's about an old wound asking to be seen, held, and finally released. You can't shine through a dirty mirror. If you want the world to reflect love, you must hold it within first. If you want peace, you must let go of the war inside. If you want joy, you must create space for it in your own heart. This is not selfish. This is sacred. The clearer your inner mirror becomes, the more easily the light within you reaches the world. Others will feel it. They won't know exactly what changed, but they'll be drawn to you because light recognizes light. The world isn't broken, it's a mirror. When you feel unseen, ask yourself if you've been hiding from your own reflection. When the world feels harsh, ask yourself if you've been harsh to your own heart. When beauty appears unexpectedly, a sunset, a laugh, a child's kindness, let it remind you that beauty is inside you too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to recognize it. You don't need to beg life to love you. You simply need to love yourself clearly enough that life has no choice but to mirror that love back. Chapter 8. Think lightly, like a feather rests on water. There's a strength in softness that few people recognize. In our world, we're taught that intensity, planning, and seriousness are signs of responsibility, that the more burdened you look, the more successful you must be. But the Buddha taught something altogether different. Liberation comes not from adding, but from releasing. Imagine a feather resting on a still pond. No noise, no drama, it just floats. It doesn't try to dominate the water. It doesn't try to get anywhere, and yet it moves with grace carried by the slightest current. This is the essence of a light mind. Most of us carry thoughts like bricks, heavy, sharp, inflexible. We hold on to arguments from years ago. We rehearse future fears. We replay every wrong thing we said, and in doing so, we miss the life that's happening now. But the mind was never meant to be a warehouse. It was meant to be like the sky, spacious, open, and able to let clouds pass. Let me tell you the story of Elias. Elias was a retired engineer in his 70s, a widower, a problem solver by nature. He came to our meditation center with a heart full of grief and a head full of questions. How do I move on? He asked. I've fixed machines, I've managed teams, but I can't fix this. What he was referring to, of course, was sorrow, the quiet ache of losing the love of his life. He thought that if he read enough books or followed the right routine, he could outthink the pain. But grief, I told him, is not a problem to be solved. It is a presence to be honored. So we practiced something different, the meditation of lightness. Each time a heavy thought came up, guilt, regret, loneliness, I asked Elias to breathe deeply and imagine placing that thought onto a feather. Then we'd watch in the mind's eye as the feather gently floated downstream. At first, it felt silly to him. Isn't this avoiding reality? He asked, but over time he began to understand. Lightness is not denial, it is space. And space gives healing a chance to enter. He began to smile more, not because the grief was gone, but because it was no longer suffocating him. What makes a mind heavy? A heavy mind is one that clings to judgment, to expectation, to control. It says, I must figure everything out. I must be perfect. I must keep everyone happy. I must never make mistakes. These thoughts may look like responsibility on the outside, but underneath, they're fear in disguise. A light mind is not careless. It is careful, but without attachment. It does what it can, then lets go of the rest. There's an old Zen saying, let thoughts come and go, just don't serve them tea. A simple daily practice for lightness. Here's a practice I often share with students, the feather practice, 5 minutes a day. 1. Sit comfortably with your spine upright. Breathe deeply. 2. Visualize a large, clear body of water, still, calm, welcoming. 3. Imagine each thought that arises as a feather. Label it gently: worry, planning, doubt, regret. 4. Place that feather on the water. Watch it float. No need to chase it, no need to grab it back. 5. Return to breath. Repeat. The purpose isn't to remove all thoughts, it's to shift how you relate to them. When thoughts are held lightly, they lose their power to control you. Questions to ask when the mind gets loud. When you feel your head clouded with worry, pause and ask, is this thought true? Is this thought helpful? Is this thought mine or something I've inherited from others? What happens if I release this just for now? You'll find that many thoughts are echoes, old patterns passed down from parents, culture, fear. They were never truly yours. And when you stop treating them like permanent truths, they begin to dissolve. Living with a feather mind. A light mind doesn't mean you avoid life's responsibilities. It means you stop carrying them in a way that crushes your joy. It's okay to show up to your day with presence, but leave behind the need to control how it unfolds. It's okay to care for others without making their emotions your burden. It's okay to reflect on the past without turning it into a prison. A feather is still real, still tangible, but it moves with the world, not against it. So should your thoughts. When the mind floats, the heart opens. As Elias discovered, lightness isn't a personality trait, it's a spiritual skill. It is cultivated through daily release, through forgiveness, through choosing peace over perfection. And as your mind softens, so does your life. People respond differently. You smile more, you sleep better, you begin to see beauty again in small things, in the way sunlight hits the kitchen counter, in the quiet of early morning, in the sound of birds returning. That is the reward of a feather mind. It lets you experience this world fully without getting lost in it. Chapter 9. Wait for the bloom, like a lotus in the mud. There's a reason the lotus is one of the most sacred symbols in Buddhism. It doesn't grow in pristine waters. It doesn't rise out of a marble vase or a manicured garden. No, the lotus blooms in mud, thick, dark, messy mud. And that's not an accident, that's the point, because mud is what life really feels like sometimes. Especially after 50, it's the diagnosis you didn't expect, the career ending before you were ready, the friendships that quietly faded, the phone that doesn't ring as much. It's the silence in your home after the children move out, the slow mornings, the aching knees. the unspoken grief of being in a world that worships youth while quietly overlooking wisdom. But here's the truth Buddhist teachings gently whisper: you are not stuck, you are becoming. The lotus doesn't rush, it doesn't complain, it simply pushes upward day by day through murk and weight and resistance. All the while something beautiful is preparing. I remember working with Diana, a 59-year-old woman from New Jersey. She came into one of our retreats with shoulders pulled tight and eyes full of worry. "I've lost so much," she said. Her job had ended after decades, her health had taken a hit, her adult children were busy living lives she no longer felt part of. "I feel invisible," she told me, but invisibility isn't the same as unworthiness. Sometimes it's a necessary season. Like seeds beneath the soil, growth doesn't always announce itself. It happens in silence, in the dark, in time. We didn't start with solutions, we started with space. She began walking slowly each morning, noticing how the light filtered through trees. She meditated for 10 minutes a day, sometimes crying, sometimes feeling nothing at all. She journaled letters she never sent, to her past self, to her children, to the woman she hoped to become. One morning, as we sat quietly over tea, she exhaled deeply and said, "I think I'm okay with not blooming yet." And right there, in that moment of surrender, she began to bloom. In Buddhism, this kind of shift isn't dramatic, it's subtle, but it's everything. It's the moment the mind stops grasping and starts listening. It's the transformation of mud into nourishment, because the mud is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Every disappointment, every delay, every doubt, none of it is wasted. It's compost, it's part of your becoming. If you're in a phase of life where nothing feels like it's moving, that's okay. The question is not, how fast can I grow? The question is, what is being formed in me that the world cannot see yet? Let's bring this down to practice. How do you live like a lotus? 1. Honor the mud. Instead of rushing to get out of this, pause and ask, what does this moment have to teach me? Is it patience, humility? A redefinition of who I am when I'm no longer producing or being praised. Say to yourself, this too is part of the bloom. 2. Recognize the seasons. Not every season is for blooming. Some are for rooting, for resting. For realigning, think of bamboo. It grows roots for years underground before it shoots upward. In those years, nothing seems to happen, but everything is happening. If your current season is quiet, trust it. Some wisdom can only grow in stillness. 3. Practice stillness, not stagnation. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing things slowly with presence, taking a mindful walk, washing dishes with care. Sitting in silence and letting your breath be your anchor. Light isn't always a flash, sometimes it's a slow dawn. Another story, a man named Jorge, 67, once told me, "I feel like I'm behind." When I asked behind whom, he paused. "I don't know, just behind." We carry this illusion that there's a clock ticking, that we're racing others. But in Buddhist wisdom, there is no race, there is only the present step. The lotus doesn't compare itself to the lily. It just rises in its time, in its season, in its beauty. Try this reflection before bed. What have I judged as wasted time that may have actually nourished my roots? What pain have I pushed away instead of letting it soften me? Where can I be more patient with myself, with others, with life? And perhaps most importantly, am I willing to trust that life is preparing me even when I don't see results? In Buddhist teaching, true growth is never about speed, it's about depth. The world might celebrate those who rush to bloom, who shout their transformation from rooftops, but real, quiet transformation, that's sacred. It's in the small, unnoticed choices, the breath you take before reacting, the letter you write to your inner child, the tears you finally allow after years of holding them in, the grace you give yourself at the end of a long day. That's the mud working. That's the beginning of bloom, so if today feels muddy, remember, that's exactly where the lotus begins, not in clarity, not in perfection, not in noise, but in silence, in stillness, in the sacred dark. Your bloom is coming, wait with love. Wait with presence, wait like the lotus. Chapter 10. Let action flow from inner peace, not panic. When we look at the world today, it often seems like motion equals meaning. We're constantly moving, scrolling, planning, fixing, chasing, and we mistake that movement for progress. But Buddhist wisdom offers a radical truth. Not all movement leads to liberation. Not all action is sacred. Many of us act out of panic. We react instead of respond. We hustle not from inspiration, but from the tight grip of fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of being irrelevant, especially as we age. But action that arises from fear rarely creates anything lasting. It may look productive on the surface, but underneath, it's chaos pretending to be control. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." But what if your mind is in a storm? What do your actions become then? Let's consider Eugene. He was in his late 60s, 3 failed businesses behind him. He came to me not because he wanted to start another one, but because he was exhausted. "I can't stop," he said. "If I sit still, I feel like I'm disappearing." Eugene had lived most of his adult life like a firefighter, always putting out some flame, always starting something else because stillness felt like death. But here's the thing, what he thought was momentum was actually avoidance. He was doing more and being less. We spent time unwinding that urge. Instead of rushing into what's next, I asked him to do something harder: sit, breathe, wait. At first it felt unbearable. He said it felt like nothing. But slowly that nothing became the space for real clarity to arise. He started to notice what felt true and what was just habit. And then one day, without pushing or planning, an idea came: a bookstore. Not a chain, not an online venture, not a grand scheme, just a quiet little space filled with stories near a park he loved. "It just feels peaceful," he said, and because it was born from peace, it thrived. That's the core of this teaching. True action flows from inner stillness, not inner chaos. So how do we live this wisdom, especially in a world that glorifies urgency? We begin by building a pause, a sacred pause between impulse and action, between idea and execution, between panic and presence. Try this practice before making any big decision, or even a small one that feels rushed. 1. Pause. Literally stop what you're doing. Close your eyes if you can. Feel your breath in your body. Just 3 deep inhales and exhales can shift your internal state. 2. Ask, where's this coming from? Is it from fear, guilt, pressure? Or is it rising naturally like a tide that knows its time? 3. Choose, not react. Reactions are often echoes of old wounds. Choices are conscious. Even choosing to do nothing is a powerful action if done with awareness. There's a story in Zen Buddhism of a monk who was asked how he managed to do everything with such peace and grace. He said, "I don't rush, I don't delay, I just do one thing at a time with full attention." That's it, no time management app, no 10-step hustle plan, just presence. The truth is, your best actions, the ones that create peace, purpose, and even success, will not come when your mind is racing. They will come when your mind is quiet, because in that stillness, you become a clear channel for wisdom to move through you. It's like a mountain stream. If it's muddy and disturbed, it can't reflect the sky. But when the waters settle, clarity arises. Here are a few reminders to anchor this teaching in daily life. Busyness isn't the same as alignment. Urgency isn't the same as importance. Movement isn't the same as momentum. Let your life flow like a river, not because it's being forced, but because it's following its nature. Don't act just to avoid discomfort. Don't speak just to fill silence. Don't chase just because standing still scares you. Instead, return to the breath. Let silence reveal the next step. Trust that it will. Because when you act from peace, your actions carry power. When you move from stillness, your impact becomes precise. And when you build your life not on panic, but on presence, that is when it becomes not just busy, but beautiful. Let each step be intentional. Let each choice be grounded. Let your life unfold, not like a sprint, but like a sacred walk. In stillness, you remember who you are, and from that remembrance, all right action flows. Chapter 11, Let life happen like clouds drift across the sky. When we allow life to move the way it naturally wants to, like clouds drifting across a boundless sky, something deep inside us begins to settle. There's no need to grip, no need to analyze each shift in the wind. There's only awareness. Presence and trust, but that's not how most of us live. We grasp, we brace. We hold on for dear life to things already meant to pass, jobs that ended years ago, relationships that shifted, health that changed, dreams that were never ours to carry. The irony is, it's not the loss that hurts us the most, it's our refusal to let the loss go. Buddhism teaches a central truth: everything that arises will pass. That's not pessimism, it's clarity. That's not detachment, it's liberation. There's a Zen phrase I often return to: let go or be dragged. Selene was one of those people being dragged. She was 64 when we met, gentle eyes but a clenched jaw. She had been carrying a heartbreak for over 2 decades. Her husband had left her for another woman. That betrayal had hardened into a story she told herself daily, not just about him but about herself. I'm not lovable, I'm always abandoned. Even after building a new life, traveling, painting, becoming a grandmother, she could not stop replaying that one wound. The clouds had passed, but she was still looking up and yelling at the sky. We worked with what Buddhists call non-attachment, not to deny the emotion, but to allow it to be seen and softened. Every time that pain came up, and it did often, I invited her to simply notice it, breathe, label it. This is hurt. This is memory, not this is me, but this is weather. Because that's all emotions are, weather in the sky of your awareness. They come, they linger, they pass. If you cling to a storm, you stay soaked. But if you witness it, it rolls through and you remain the sky. Here's a simple daily practice I often teach: the sky-gazing meditation. Sit somewhere comfortable, close your eyes, or gaze softly out a window. Imagine your awareness as the open sky. As thoughts arise, label them: thinking, worry, planning, memory. Then let them go gently, no pushing, no gripping. Let your mind become wide, vast, unattached. When a strong emotion arises, say, this too is just a cloud. The Buddha taught that suffering comes not from pain, but from attachment to pain. We grip our suffering because it gives us identity, because we think it protects us. Because paradoxically, we're afraid of who we might be without it. But imagine this: you wake up tomorrow and stop retelling your worst stories. You stop identifying with that betrayal, that mistake, that regret. You stop rehearsing the drama. You simply sit in this moment, clear and free. That is the beginning of freedom, not when life gets easier, not when everyone apologizes, but when you stop grasping and start flowing. Like clouds, emotions are not wrong, they are not shameful, they are not a sign of spiritual failure. They're human. Let them be, let them pass. Think about the clouds again. Do they rush across the sky? Do they apologize for arriving? Do they stay longer than they should? No, they appear, they drift, they change shape, and they move on. So too should your thoughts, your fears, even your joy. Because trying to cling to joy also creates suffering. The mind says, I want to feel good forever. Buddhism says, feel fully and let go gently. This doesn't mean you won't care. It means you'll stop trying to control what was never yours to manage. Let's bring it to everyday life. When your adult child says something sharp, watch the reaction rise, name it, let it drift. When the ache of loneliness surfaces at night, don't rush to distract. Say, this too shall pass. When your plans fall apart, your body hurts, or your future feels uncertain, remember, the sky is still here. The storm is not forever. This is not just theory, it's daily salvation. Let go again and again. Let your expectations soften. Let your timeline unravel. Let your story rewrite itself. Because the sky never clings, and yet it holds everything. Be like that. Let life happen, let people come and go, let emotions visit and leave, let your identity shift with the seasons. You are the awareness behind it all. You are the sky, not the clouds. Chapter 12. Live as if you already trust. The universe is waiting. Trust isn't a finish line you cross, it's a way of walking through life. It's a posture of the heart, not the brain. And like all spiritual truths in Buddhism, it's less about believing in something external and more about realigning with your own nature. Your Buddha nature, which is already calm, already wise, already trusting. But the ego doesn't like that. The ego wants maps, proof, guarantees, so we hesitate, we delay our dreams, we second-guess our instincts, we build mental spreadsheets for every decision. And all the while, life, the moment, the now, slips by unnoticed. When the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, he didn't know how long it would take to awaken. He didn't have a strategy or a checklist. He had only his vow. I will not rise until I see clearly. That's trust, deep-rooted trust, not in a god or fate, but in the process of awakening itself. And that's where we must begin, not when all conditions are perfect, but right here, in the messy, uncertain middle of our lives. Harold's story is more common than we think. A brilliant man who lived his whole life by the blueprint, every brick calculated, every corner squared. And yet, when life asked him to pivot, to be spontaneous, vulnerable, expressive, he froze. Why? Because like many of us, he had confused control with safety. But real safety doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from aligning with life. When Harold started painting again, it wasn't because he had a plan. It was because he had a pull, a whisper inside that said, let this out. That's what the Buddhist path invites, a return to the present moment as a trustworthy guide. When we stop demanding certainty, we start hearing intuition. Here's a practice you can try: morning trust ritual. Before you get out of bed, place your hand over your heart, breathe, then ask, if I already knew life was on my side today, how would I move? What would I soften? What would I stop trying to control? Let the answers rise, don't analyze them, just feel their wisdom. And then act as if they're true. That's the key. Act as if you already trust, not someday, not when you get a sign, but now. In Buddhism, we call this right intention. Not intention based on anxiety or neediness, but intention that flows from clarity, compassion, and surrender. When we plant those seeds, we're not guaranteed the outcome we expect, but we are aligning with the energy of harmony. And harmony has a way of echoing back. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities appear. Health improves. Peace increases. Not because you forced life into obedience, but because you stopped fighting it. Let's talk about control for a moment. Control is often a trauma response, a way the mind tries to create safety by manipulating the future, but it's a false comfort. Control is brittle, and it always breaks under the weight of uncertainty. Trust, on the other hand, is fluid. It bends, it breathes, it adapts, and most importantly, it receives. When you live from trust, life doesn't become easier, but it becomes smoother. Your resistance drops, your suffering decreases, and even challenges feel sacred because you stop seeing them as punishments and start recognizing them as part of the unfolding. Like the lotus that doesn't resist the mud. Like the bird that leaps before it flies. Like the breath that trusts it will be followed by another. So too must we live. If you've spent years waiting for the right moment, let this be it. Let this be the day you begin living from your deep yes, that place inside you that already knows, even if your mind doesn't. Take the class, write the poem, apologize with your whole chest. Move to the place that scares you but excites your soul. Speak softer or louder or truer, not because it's guaranteed to work out the way you hope, but because it's guaranteed to open you. Another practice I love. Walk with trust. Next time you go outside, walk as if you are being held by the earth itself. Each step supported, each breath welcomed. Look around as if the world is rooting for you, because it is. The universe doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present, and presence begins when fear ends. Harold's journey wasn't about painting. It was about re-entering life with open hands. He stopped measuring success by outcome and started measuring it by alignment. He didn't wait for someone to tell him it was time. He decided it already was, and that's the invitation for all of us. Live as if you already trust. Because deep down you do. You've trusted every breath, you've survived every heartbreak, you've awakened every morning, even on the hardest days. That's trust in motion. So stop bracing, stop bargaining. Put your faith not in the plan, but in the pulse of your own life. Follow it, serve it, let it surprise you, because the truth is, the universe isn't waiting to test you, it's waiting to meet you, right where you already are. Chapter 13, The Bloom Begins Within. What if the most powerful change in your life didn't come with fireworks, but with stillness? What if growth wasn't loud, but rooted, like the lotus rising through the mud, quietly, patiently, inevitably? This video has taken you on a journey, one not just of knowledge, but of transformation. If you've watched this far, it means something inside you is already shifting. You're not here by accident, you're here because a part of you is ready. Ready to stop chasing and start aligning. Ready to let go not as an act of defeat, but as an act of deep courage. Let's circle back to the lotus. It does not force its bloom. It doesn't strain toward the light. Instead, it allows. It trusts the mud to be its nourishment, the water to be its path, and the sun, when the time is right, to greet it. This is what you've been learning in every chapter of this video, that the mud isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. That stillness isn't laziness, it's the source. That trust isn't naive, it's your natural state. And above all, that you don't need to become anything else. You need only to return to what you already are, calm, whole, awake. Let's reflect for a moment. Chapter 1 taught you to stop clenching the storm and let it pass through you. Chapter 2 reminded you that your worth was never tied to what you carry. Chapter 3 revealed that your energy speaks louder than your effort. Chapter 4 asked you to flow like the river, even when you can't see the ocean. Chapter 5 and 6 invited you into the sacred emptiness where stillness becomes thunder. Chapter 7 through 9 asked you to heal the mirror, think lightly, and honor your blooming season, even if it's slow. Chapter 10, 11, and 12 brought it home. Act from peace, let life drift through you like clouds, and trust, as if you already believe the universe is on your side. You've just journeyed through 12 profound and concise chapters of Buddhist philosophy, woven with real stories and deep practices for your life after 50. This isn't just theory, it's soul nourishment, and it only works if you integrate it. So before you move on to your next video, take a breath, take out your journal, and write this down. What will I let go of starting today? Will you let go of control, of rushing, of needing to prove? Will you finally lay down the old story of not enough and step into your sacred enoughness? Will you trust the mud you're in, because something beautiful is already rising through it? Let this be your moment, not when the world changes, but when you do. You don't have to remember every word, you don't have to practice every technique, but take one idea, one mantra, one pause, and live it, breathe with it, walk with it. Speak from it, because when we change how we move through the world moves differently around us. And if no one's told you this lately, hear it now. You are not too late, you are not too broken. You are not too old to bloom, you are precisely where you need to be, mud and all, for something sacred to emerge. So here's your gentle invitation, carry these teachings with you. Not as more to-dos on your list, but as seeds in your pocket. Plant them in your morning stillness, in your conversations, in how gently you speak to yourself. Let your life become the garden, and the bloom, it will come. Now, if this video brought clarity, calm, or comfort to your path, I invite you to stay connected. Leave a comment, share what part spoke to your heart. Like and subscribe to receive more moments of peace like this, because you're not alone. This path may feel quiet, but it is walked by many, and we walk it together. The storm is not yours to hold. The river already knows the way, and the lotus is rising. Take your next step in silence. The universe is already listening.